Hello, and welcome to Foundations for Algebra, Unit 1A, Lesson 4. Today, scholars will determine the rate of change of a function. We're looking at rate of change today. So first, let's talk about what is rate of change. Rate of change is also called slope, and we have this wonderful formula. Slope is abbreviated with m, so I know you've seen y equals mx plus b. M right here is our slope. To find it, we do rise over run, which you'll see more when we do our graph. The other thing you do is you take 2 points. You have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. I will go into this in more detail when we do sum from points. But this is the slope formula. So first, how can we find the rate of change of an equation? So when we're looking at equations, even this one right here is written in function notation, this one's not. This one is a function even though it's got r and t instead of x. So your rate of change multiplies with your input or your independent variable. So, if we look at this first equation here, my rate of change is -4. The negative goes with it. That's my rate of change there. If I look at r, my rate of change is 3, because 3 multiplies with t, which is my input on my independent variable. And finally, if you look at this last one, my rate of change is -2, because that's what's multiplied with my x. This only works when these are in this format, where you have your output equals something times your input. So your output equals something times your input minus 2. Now, sometimes you'll see something that's like something like y equals x plus 3. In that case, your rate of change is actually 1. Because remember that we wouldn't write 1x, we would just write x. And same thing if we have negative x. Negative x has a rate of change of -1. So just a quick reminder on that. So when we're looking at equations, it's pretty simple. But what about when I'm looking at a table? So now we're going to start using that formula. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to choose 2 ordered pairs. In this case, I will choose 4, 3, and 6, 5. So those are the 2 ordered pairs I'm using. I'm going to use 4, 3, and 6. Oh, sorry, there's 4, -3, and 6, -5. So in that case, this is x1. -3 is y1. That's just your first point. And then over here we have x2 and y2. So x1 is 4, y1 is -3. x2 is 6, y2 is -5. Now we're going to put that into, sorry, make that a little smaller, make it a little easier for me, into our slope, which says y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So I know my y2 is -5, so it's -5 minus my y1 is -3 minus -3 divided by my x2 is 6 minus my x1 is 4. So I have -5 minus -3, I'll rewrite that in a minute, divided by 6 minus 4. So I rewrite that as -5 minus negative turns into plus 3 divided by 6 minus 4. Well, -5 plus 3 is -2. Because remember, when we have different signs, we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So I have -2 divided by 6 minus 4 gives me 2. Well, negative 2 over 2 can be simplified. So here my slope is negative 1 is my final answer. Let's try another one. Again, we are looking at a table. I'm going to choose 2 points. I'll choose this point and then the one next to it. I just like to choose points next to each other. So my points are, remember x is first, 2, 0, and 4, negative 2. So here is x1, here is y1, here is x2, here is y2. Okay, and we can write that so we know x1 is 2, y1 is 0, x2 is 4, y2 is negative 2. And again, we are going to put that into our slope formula. It says, go back, sorry. It says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We're going to replace the numbers. So y2 is negative 2, so I have negative 2 minus y1 is 0 over x2 is 4 minus x1 is 2. So negative 2 minus 0 is just negative 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So once again, I end up with a slope of negative 1 because negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. So now what if I'm looking at one where it's a little bit different? In this case, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm going to take 2 points. I've got my x and my y. I have my x and my y. So my points are 0, 200, and 5, 180. So x1 is 0, y1 is 200, x2 is 5, y2 is 180. So again, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is 180, y1 is 200. So 180 minus 200. Remember, it doesn't matter if 1 is larger. And then x2, 5, minus x1 is 0. So 180 minus 200 gives me negative 20, divided by 5 minus 0 is 5. Well, negative 20 divided by 5 gives me negative 4. So my slope is negative 4. But there's another way to say this. I could write this as a sentence. Look at here, I was looking at minutes and gallons remaining. So every minute, let's write this over 1. 4 gallons of water leave the tank. You must be talking about something with gallons and leaving a tank or a pool. I'll say leave the tank in this case. So that's how we can describe the situation. Let's look at this one. In this case, we are looking at time, afternoon, and total distance for a distance a car travels. So do the same thing. You're going to choose 2 points, and then you are just going to use the slope formula. Slope formula is going to be your friend. So I've got the point 1, 110, and the point 175, 2. So again, I just put points 1, 110, and 2, 175. So y2, 175, minus y1, 110, over 2 minus 1. 175 minus 110 is 65 over 1. So this car, because we're looking at a car and how fast it's traveling, travels 65 miles each hour. Travels 65 miles per hour. Okay. So what if we're looking at a graph instead? Well, you can do the same thing. I've got 2 points here, and you can use those points. However, when we're looking at a graph, we can also do, remember I also said it was also called rise over run. So we can say if I start at this bottom point, how much do I rise and how much do I run to get to the next point? Well, that's going to be pretty simple. I can simply count these. So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I went over 1, 2, 3. So my rise was 4, my run was 3. I went up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 3. 1, 2, 3. That's the slope of this line, 4 over 3. And I know it is positive because from left to right, it goes up. Remember, we always read from left to right. So let's look at this next graph. The first thing I notice when I read it from left to right, it's going down. That means the slope is negative. So that's my first thing. Slope is negative. So I know at the end this will be a negative number. So now let's look at going between 2 points. So I'm going to start at this 0, 5 and go to 3, 3. So my rise is 1, 2. My run is 1, 2, 3. Again, I can count them. My rise is 1, 2. And my run is 1, 2, 3. That means my rise 2 over my run of 3. And I know that this is negative. So my slope is negative 2/3. Let's try just a couple more real quick to make sure you've got this. Again, this time they didn't give us the points. We could choose points and do this, or we can just look here. So I'm going to start here at this point. First of all, I know this is a positive slope because it goes up from left to right. Okay, so I can tell that if I just go along this, I'm going up from left to right. So I'm going to start at this point right here to get, oh no, I'm not going to choose a point that's actually out on a grid. So you notice where this part where I can see this touch. So I'm going to go up from this point and I'm going to go up and then over. In this case, I think I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I went over 1, 2. So up 3, or sorry, up 4, and over 2. 4 over 2 is just 2, and I know it's positive. Last one, and then you guys are doing some practice on your own. Again, now we are looking at tuition payments. You're going to go between 2 points. So I'm going to go between this point right here and this point right here. I'm going to rise -2 and run 3. So I can know this is a negative because again it's going down from left to right. It's a negative slope. So it should be negative. My rise, the amount I went up or down, was 1, 2. So -2 over, I ran 1, 2, 3. -2 over 3. In that case, my vertical movement is amount owed in thousands of dollars. My horizontal movement was the number of payments. So I can tell that for every 3 payments I make, the amount owed decreases, is going down, by how much? It's 2, but this is in thousands, by $2,000. Okay, good luck with your classwork.